Summit Corporation, founded in 1961 here in Greensboro. We're a general contractor specializing in multifamily, commercial, industrial projects all across the globe. So 13 years ago, we participated in the Joint School of Nanoscience and Nanoengineering. The project originally was seeking LEED Silver. Fortunately enough, we were able to seek LEED Gold through a number of activities, the construction waste piece that was in there, the waste management plan, all that was a part of it. Successful project, took us about 24 months to do the project, and overall it was very successful. A lot of the things that's happening during construction helps a project like this achieve LEED Gold. One of the things is when the mechanical systems were going in, we were successful enough to make sure the HVAC contractor covered all the duct openings, things like that to keep the indoor air quality clean. Again, when we had the dumpsters placed, everything was placed separately. Your drywall material, your paint materials was all taken away from the site separately. And each individual project manager had a piece in terms of kind of verifying that the VOCs were low and, for example, the paint submittals. So Gateway University campus is a combination of North Carolina A&T and UNCG. Originally, when we put Joint School of Nanoscience on the project, there were only 2 buildings on the campus. Now to date, we have added the Research Facility 3, which is also seeking LEED certification, and we'll be doing an expansion in the next few months.
So to be LEED accredited means that you have a good understanding of green building principles and buildings and how those go together, and it allows you to showcase your expertise in that subject matter.
Being LEED accredited means you've really embraced the sustainable building culture, and you've gone so far as to get your accreditation, showing your experience or your interest in participating in LEED projects and overall sustainability in the construction industry.
Yeah, so a general contractor would want to be LEED accredited to show their expertise in green building design and construction, and to have that credential behind your name, so people that don't know anything about you, they can look at that name and say, this person knows what they're doing. They have some understanding of how these systems go in together and how they all work together.
So having LEED accredited professionals on staff means that you not only have the expertise to be ready to build those facilities, but also is showing your company's investment in sustainable building and green building, for other metrics. Green globes, LEED. There's a number of different building certification programs that are out there now that are all really applicable to the overall big picture sustainability movement.
Going through the process of getting your accreditation, you have to do some research, and you have to do some studying, and you got to see what it's all about. And there's a lot of areas that it covers, and there's a lot of details, and so to really dig into that and just to get enough to understand to even get your accreditation, it's a lot. And so people know that it takes a lot to make that happen, and it goes to your credibility. Then once you're actually in construction, it helps you, again, put the parts and pieces together to be a good communicator between all of the different people that are designing the building and building the building, and the owner who wants this thing to work. They don't understand how it works, but they want to make sure it happens. We're that person that understands how they all go together. LEED is it's a holistic way to look at a building. It's an environmental certification system that you can go through. It looks at the efficiency of your mechanical systems, it looks at your carbon output, it looks at your water use efficiency, it looks at the quality of the air that the people working and living in the buildings have to breathe. It wants to be a building that people function better in, they live better in, it's just a better place to be. And then one of the other benefits of that is it has a smaller footprint on our planet, so it definitely has environmental aspects and personal benefits as well. So I got my LEED accreditation quite a while ago, back when the system was still fairly new, and since then it has changed and evolved, and they've gone from being LEED AP to LEED AP BD&C, which is Building Design and Construction. And the reason I did that is because I wanted to find out how these buildings were built and to see what I could do to do better at my job as a builder. I wanted to understand what we were putting together. I wanted to be able to help the design team and the builders find solutions to these problems. I wanted to make sure the work that I was putting in place was leaving as small of a footprint as possible on our planet. So going through the process of learning what the system is and going through the accreditation gave me that background. And you know, once you get those letters after your name, it's something you can be proud of, and it's something that you can, you know, put on your resume, and people see it and they know what it means, and it's a good feeling, and you know that you're doing something better.
So when I got accredited 12 years ago, LEED was still pretty new. It was version 2 was the current LEED standard at the time, and the goal was just to be prepared. After I got accredited, I went on to be involved in the highest scoring LEED Platinum school in the world at the time in Washington, D.C. That one, you know, had everything: solar, geothermal, daylighting. It was LEED for schools, which was kind of a unique subset of LEED version 3. So enhanced acoustics. It's eye-opening once you really get into LEED and get into managing the process, what all truly goes into delivering a LEED certified project.
Yeah, so on a LEED project, the GC has a lot to do with it. We don't design the building. We're not designing the systems that are going in, picking the materials, those sorts of things. But that doesn't mean we don't have influence and we don't have impact on what actually goes into place and what actually gets purchased. So we should be looking at the specifications at the beginning of a project before we buying things out. And you look at the list of manufacturers, and there might be one manufacturer listed as the basis of design, but that doesn't mean we have to use them. If there's a whole nother list, part of what we can do is go through and evaluate which one of those manufacturers would have the best impact for the program based on how close they are to the project. You know, if they have strong building practices within their own systems already, if they've got good manufacturing, that sort of thing. We've got all of those that we can evaluate at the front end and steer the design team towards that final selection at the end of it.
So some of it starts in the pre-construction phase, looking at some of the credits you can get just in site selection. Particularly in an urban environment, there's a lot of credits that are almost free, that don't cost a huge investment just based on your site selection. The next is, you know, looking at the sourcing of materials for the project, picking materials that are regional. Here in North Carolina, we're lucky to be kind of in the middle of the Atlantic seaboard and have a lot of different manufacturers within the 500-mile radius that contribute towards our regional materials.
The other big aspect that the general contractor has control over is the waste stream created by construction projects. We all know construction creates a lot of waste. You can drive by any project in any city and you see big old dumpsters full of stuff. So what we can do is try to reduce those waste streams. And when we do get materials that have to go in those streams, is to find ways to divert them so they're not ending up in landfill, that they're getting recycled or they're getting repurposed.
And then going forward into the construction phase, you know, we're the first real, you know, main entity controlling indoor air quality. Our stake is the biggest in the construction waste, how we manage the site, and then also indoor air quality when it comes to materials, storage, mold prevention, all those different things that could occur during the construction phase. You know, the buck stops with us.
Yeah, so we as contractors, we control what gets used on our sites. So putting in place more efficient systems, more efficient equipment, that's something that we have control over. Are you running off of gas-powered generators, diesel-powered generators? Do you have electric equipment? Do you have gas-powered equipment? Solar power is definitely coming up in the industry. Obviously, it's available. Solar energy is definitely newer to the job sites. You don't see it at a lot of places, but it's out there, and it just takes a little initiative to make it happen. Job site trailers are typically ran off of generators, which burns fossil fuels. Rather than that, if you can put solar panels on the tops of those and run your trailer that way, you're reducing your carbon footprint dramatically. Likewise, your big heavy equipment, your tractors and your backhoes and those sorts of things, you can get electric ones or you can get gas-powered ones. Thinking about the types of emissions that those things generate, we have the ability to control that sort of thing. You can also have systems in place on your job site and rules and policies, including no idling. When the big truck isn't getting used, don't let it run for 20 minutes just burning those fossil fuels on site. Enforcement of that it doesn't take a lot. It just takes effort. It just takes someone saying, hey, you need to turn that off. And that's where we as contractors can help make sure that our trades are doing what they can do to reduce our carbon footprint. It's really important to select like-minded trade partners when you are putting together your team for building. You want folks that care and agree that there is an issue and that it is an issue that's controllable, that we have the power to do better, and that want to be creative and find solutions to those typical problems that we see on every project. So having those conversations with the trade partners before you even put an invitation to bid on the street. You want to talk to those folks, you want to figure out who are the players that care, who have policies in place, that want to learn, that want to grow, and to be an actual true partner with you to be efficient and build a good building that everyone can actually be proud of at the end of the day. Something that leaves a smaller footprint and a better space for everyone. So when a client comes to us and says, we want to build a building and we want to go after LEED certification, that's a big deal. We know that they want to do the right thing. We know that they want a building that's efficient. They want a building that uses less water, has cleaner air, has cleaner spaces and brighter spaces for their tenants and the people that are going to be living or working in there. So we know that they want to do the right thing. So what we would have to do from a general contracting perspective is at the very beginning, as soon as possible, we want this conversation to happen. And we want to get in there and we want to start looking into the specifications that have been created and see what type of parameters they want to work in. We do this with our pre-construction team. They'll go through, they look at the drawings, the specifications, they talk to the design team, and that's where we have an opportunity again to sort of influence the way the building is put together and the way the design is put together. We can work with the design team, the engineers, the architects, all of those folks, and kind of help guide them one direction or another, looking at both the cost side of things, which is a normal sort of GC thing to do, but also, okay, here's the cost, but here's the environmental impacts as well, and maybe there's some give and take between those two items that we can help influence that. Once we get bought out, or we're in the process of buying out, that's when we have those conversations with our trade partners again. We want to talk to them about how their project budget meets all those requirements for the LEED project. They've covered all the bases, they've picked the right materials, they have looked at how their crews are put together, they have looked at prefabrication possibilities at their facilities to make more efficient systems and to be more efficient when they get on site.
So today, the energy code has gotten to the point where the performance expectations are pretty high. So going to LEED isn't a huge increase in cost or schedule. A lot of buildings today are built with sustainable features, already built in at just part of the basic build, unrelated to LEED. What it shows to an owner is that they're serious about their long-term building performance, their occupant health, and their energy savings over the long term. It's not strictly initial construction cost, it's the life cycle cost of the building.
Collaboration is extremely important because when an architect has submittals involved and specifications drawn around a LEED project, the construction manager is on the front end of that. So our project engineers are reviewing the submittals to make sure they match the specifications exactly. And if you have a discrepancy, talking back and forth to your architect to make sure these particular things that may be substituted would still work for the ultimate goal of the project being a LEED goal.
So the first thing we're going to ask for is the LEED scorecard. What credits is the project going for? From that, we can determine or confirm, what materials need to go into the project. For instance, again, certain manufacturers may have 10 plants across the country that make certain materials. We may have one plant that's here within our own backyard that produces that material, but also with recycled content. So, working with the architect to build the specifications around materials that are ultimately going to help contribute towards the credits that we need. And also understanding, maybe there's some credits that weren't initially pursued in that checklist that we can target that are minimal cost or schedule implications to the project by looking into those really early on in the project.
So collaboration is extremely important for everyone on a project, especially when seeking LEED certification. You want the general contractor and as many trade partners as possible to get involved as early as possible in the process. What that does is it allows there to be a give and take throughout the design process on the cost side of things, the constructability side of things, the energy efficiency, all the environmental impacts, and to make sure that everyone involved has a really good understanding of how those things go together. The more conversations you have up front, the fewer you have to have on the site, and the fewer last-minute scrambles you have, and things go together better when those conversations happen.
Yeah, so waste reduction is the biggest one that's going to be apparent. And when it comes to LEED waste reduction, it's not visual. Everything's got to be set up with the hauler because it's based on the actual weight of the materials and where it's going ultimately. The idea is to obviously reduce the upfront waste to begin with. So it's working with our trade partners or their suppliers to minimize how much packaging or other single-use products are being used, which ultimately reduces how much waste is generated in the first place. Prefabrication, ordering materials to length and minimizing the amount of material waste that comes out of a project. All of those are examples of things that we would work with the trade partners and suppliers, up front before things even hit the project that contribute to the overall sustainability.